All right, let's get right into it. What kicked off about a month ago in a conflict that pretty much everyone expected to be a quick, decisive American victory has morphed into something, well, something way more dangerous. We're now looking at a situation that might not just redraw the map of the Middle East, but could literally mark the end of an entire era of American power across the globe.
And that brings us to the central question, one that honestly would have sounded completely ridiculous just a few weeks ago, but is now the most important question we can ask. Can Iran actually win this war? The answer, as we're about to see, forces us to completely rethink what winning even looks like.
So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at the war's completely unexpected turn. Then, we'll get into exactly how Iran could win. From there, we'll dig into the impossible choices America's facing, the massive shifts in global power this could trigger, and finally, we'll ask that big question: could Iran really become the graveyard of an empire?
Okay, first up, the war's unexpected turn. In just 1 month, the entire story has flipped on its head. The initial prediction was a swift regime collapse, and now we're staring down a long, dangerous standoff.
You know, the difference between what was expected and what's happening now is just wow. The initial U.S. game plan was pretty straightforward. A few surgical strikes would hit the leadership, and that would ignite a popular revolution. Fast forward 1 month, and Iran is the one calling the shots. The U.S. is actually talking about putting boots on the ground, and a long, messy war is looking more and more like the reality.
And make no mistake, Iran isn't just hanging on. They're pushing back hard. They flat out rejected a U.S. peace deal, they've taken out 13 American bases in the Gulf, and they put the entire region on notice, threatening to attack any country, like the UAE, that even thinks about helping a U.S. ground invasion. They're even mobilizing 1 million fighters to get ready for it.
So, this brings us to the real heart of the matter. How in the world could Iran actually win this? Well, to get that, you have to throw out the old definition of victory. For Iran, winning has absolutely nothing to do with planting a flag in Washington, D.C.
So here's the key idea. An Iranian victory isn't a military victory. It's a strategic one. It's all about survival. It means the Islamic Republic is still standing when the dust settles. It means they keep their command structure intact, they maintain control over critical assets, like the Strait of Hormuz, and, most importantly, they succeed in chipping away at American power and credibility on the world stage. So what's the playbook for that kind of win? It really boils down to 4 key things. First, just survive. The leadership and the government have to stay in one piece. Second, they have to maintain control of the Strait of Hormuz, which gives them a chokehold on the world's economy. Third, keep their missiles and their proxy networks up and running as a constant threat. And fourth, just endure, withstand all the pressure from the U.S., with a lot of help from friends like Russia and China.
Now, this whole strategy, it puts the United States in an absolutely impossible spot. It's a strategic trap, really, where every single path forward looks like a disaster.
Think about it. The U.S. has 2 terrible options. Option 1, a ground invasion. That risks a nightmare scenario, a bloody, expensive quagmire, basically repeating all the painful lessons from Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. But option 2, backing down, is just as bad. That would be a massive blow to American credibility around the world, basically confirming the story that America is a superpower on its way out. It is the definition of a lose-lose situation.
So let's zoom out a bit and look at what's really on the table here: the entire global balance of power. If Iran pulls this off, if they just manage to survive this conflict, the shockwaves could permanently change the world as we know it.
The fallout from a U.S. stalemate would be huge. The source material points to 6 major consequences. You could see the petrodollar system, the bedrock of American financial might, start to crumble. America's allies in the Gulf, they might start looking to China and Russia for their security. We could see a nuclear arms race kick off in the region. Iran's proxy forces would be stronger than ever. The U.S. would be so distracted that it would give China a free hand in the Pacific. And of course, back home, the backlash from high gas prices and American casualties would be immense.
And this table really lays it all out, doesn't it? The winners and losers. On the winning side, you've got Russia. Its oil money has already doubled to $24 billion in just 1 month. And China, who's just sitting back learning everything it can about U.S. military limitations. The losers? Well, the United States for sure. Its military stretched thin, its credibility in tatters. And of course, America's key allies, the Gulf states and Israel, who would be left to face a much more powerful and confident Iran.
And all of this leads us to our final, pretty chilling section. Graveyard of an empire? Here's where we get into why invading Iran would be nothing like Iraq or Afghanistan. Why it's a completely different kind of challenge,
a strategic nightmare.
We've all heard Afghanistan called the graveyard of empires, right? Because of its tough terrain. But look at this comparison. Iraq was mostly flat, open desert. Afghanistan, very mountainous. But Iran is described as a mountain-desert hybrid hell. It's basically a natural fortress, 4 times the size of Iraq. And get this, a full 50% of the entire country is covered by these massive mountain ranges. We're not just talking about tough ground to cover. We're talking about a landscape that naturally funnels any invading army into predictable, deadly kill zones. So what does that mean in reality? It means all of Iran's major cities and its nuclear facilities are tucked away deep inland, protected by this terrain. Any army trying to get to them would be forced into these bottlenecks, making them sitting ducks. Trying to keep those troops supplied would be a logistical nightmare, and this is the same geography that gave the Roman armies fits 2,000 years ago. And it's not just the mountains. Iran has a military strategy that's perfectly suited for its geography. It's called the Mosaic Doctrine. Basically, it's a decentralized system where local commanders don't need to wait for orders from Tehran to fight back. This makes a decapitation strike impossible. You can't cut the head off the snake if there are hundreds of heads. It's an army designed from the ground up to fight off an invasion from a bigger power.
And the Iranians themselves are crystal clear about their intentions. Commanders from their Revolutionary Guard Corps have said it publicly. Their goal is simple. We will make it a graveyard for Americans. And that, right there, is the heart of their entire strategy. Iran doesn't have to win in the traditional sense. They don't need to win a single major battle. All they have to do is survive, and, in the process, make the price of war, in both blood and treasure, so incredibly high that America eventually just has to give up and go home. Which leaves us with one final, very sobering question. When you look at it all, the U.S. military stretched thin, its global credibility on the line, facing an enemy fighting on its home turf in some of the most difficult terrain on Earth, with a strategy perfectly designed for it. Could this be the war that finally ends an empire?